Welcome to Multiverseatile. My name is Jake Long, and here we talk about everything Marvel and DC movies and shows. In today's video, I'm trying something a little bit different than usual. There are other videos on the channel that have premises for potential superhero movies, but in this video, I'm going to outline and point out a few details for Act 1 of a reworked Antman and the Wasp Quantumania movie. I kept a lot of things that were already in the movie, but I made quite a few changes as well. This version of the movie starts out in the same place as the original. We see Janet Van Dyne living in the quantum realm. A spark of light appears in the distance and grows larger. Janet goes toward it to investigate and sees a portal form. She gets attacked by those spider monsters that we saw in the movie. Someone is launched out of the portal. Janet defeats one of the creatures, and just as the other is about to attack her, Kang shoots it and asks, "What is this place?" We cut to the present day where Scott does his monologue montage thing the same way as in the movie, with two minor exceptions. One is a mention that he has a podcast with his friends Luis and Kurt where they talk about everything from Antman adventures to their former days of burglary. The second thing is that we get a brief mention about how Ghost and Dr. Foster disappeared during the blip, and now that they're back, the Ant family has been gathering healing particles from the quantum realm to help Ghost. Everything else happens the same in the monologue, and we see that Scott is reading his book in the bookstore as he wraps it up. He's interrupted by a call from the jail and goes to pick up Cassie. All of that same stuff happens. Cassie explains that she just wants to do more to help people who were misplaced after the blip. They listen to Scott's audiobook, etc. Everyone goes to Hank and Janet's house for dinner. Hank talks about his smart ants, and they all tease Scott about his book. Not a lot of changes at this point. The Ant family then goes to the lab where Cassie reveals the secret quantum project to Scott and Janet. Cassie explains that she thinks there may be people in the deeper part of the quantum realm who need help, and maybe they don't have access to the healing particles. Cassie sends out a signal to a deeper part of the quantum realm, and nothing happens. After a brief moment, they all hear a voice in their heads. This is the voice of Quaz, the telepath and freedom fighter from the quantum realm. He says to them, "We need your help. Kang is too powerful. Janet, please help us." Quaz's voice fades away. Scott asks Janet what the voice is talking about, but before she can answer, the machine starts to act up and remains on even after they unplug it. The machine starts to pull the Ant family into the quantum realm. Before Hank is pulled in, he explains a possible way to turn this quantum vacuum off. Maybe there is some sort of EMP or something that they can use on it. Luis and Kurt show up, and Scott tells them to stay outside of the door. Cassie gets pulled in, so Scott explains how to turn off the quantum vacuum and goes after Cassie. Luis and Kurt give each other concerned looks. We'll find out later what happens with them. While the Ant family is being sucked into the quantum realm by one tractor beam of sorts, a second tractor beam starts to pull the Ant family in its direction. Hope, Janet, and Hank end up landing about in the middle point in between the two vacuum sources, while Scott and Cassie are closer to the second source. Scott and Cassie walk around on the floating rocks, and they have their dialogue about camping the same as in the movie. Cassie mentions that Scott used the PIM particles to get out of the quantum realm once, but Scott thinks that they may be too deep within the quantum realm for it to work, but he'll see what the others think when they find them. They then get attacked by the big, but actually tiny, monster, and the freedom fighters, Jentora, Zolom, and others come to their aid. However, the freedom fighters quickly restrain Scott and Cassie when the battle is over. We switch over to Janet leading Hope and Hank through the quantum jungle. Hank listens for his ants with his earpiece. Hope asks Janet who that voice was from the lab and who the voice was talking about. Janet explains that the voice was that of Quaz, the telepath, warning her about a man named Kang. She explains how she met Kang. In a flashback, we see the two of them talking after he came through the portal. Kang assures her that he could build a machine that would get both of them back to their homes. He explains how he had traveled from one timeline to another, but now all he wants to do is go home. Unfortunately, his enemies got the best of him and sent him to the quantum realm. Janet explains, and we see through visuals, that she and Kang found Jentora and her people. After some time, she felt that she had become friends with Jentora, Zolom, Veb, and Quaz. We cut back to Scott and Cassie, who go to the Freedom Fighters base where Quaz confirms their identities, and they reluctantly drink the ooze or goo from Veb that allows them to communicate with everyone. They introduce themselves and Veb talks about his lack of holes. Jentorra leads them into one of the living buildings, and inside is a circular room with a strange plasma-like fire in the center. Scott says to Cassie, "Now this is camping." She replies, "Kind of, but we are technically in a building." Jentorra asks Scott where Janet is, as well as the real Antman. Scott assures her that he is the real Antman. They have a quick back and forth. "No, Hank Pym, Janet's husband, is Antman." "How do you know that I'm not Hank Pym?" "Quaz told me. He's a telepath, remember? And you said, 'Hi, I'm Scott,' just a minute ago." "Oh, right. Well, I'm Antman now. That's why I'm wearing the Antman costume." "Oh, I thought you were just wearing that as a decoy to protect Hank." "I guess that would make sense. Why do you need Hank anyway? I can do the same things that he could do if he were here." "Can you engineer Pym particles?" "Probably, if I have enough time and some guidance from Hank Pym." Kang has a theory about using the Pym particles to finish his time ship and escape the quantum realm. He'll want Hank's assistance. Right. Well, Iron Man figured out time travel, but I guess Hank could figure it out with this Kang guy. Who is this Kang guy anyway? And exactly how smart and powerful is he? Jentorra looks at him while thinking of where to begin. Janet, Hank, and Hope walk across the desert. Janet explains that Quaz never could read Kang's mind, but they chose to trust him because Janet trusted him, and Kang provided them with new technology which helped their civilization thrive. They also worked on creating Pym particles to help with things like the food supply. She mentions to Hope that when Hope was young, she wanted to use the technology for that purpose, even though she barely understood what the Pym particles were. They helped Kang build a ship that might allow him and Janet to leave the quantum realm. Janet tells them that Kang will be looking for Hank because when they built Kang's new time ship, they couldn't make it work the same way that his other time ship worked, so they also experimented with Pym particles to see if that could help them get back to their original timeline. Everything was going well and the time ship was nearly complete, but then they were attacked. Hope interrupts, kind of like we're about to be attacked now, as the quantum realm people from the desert appear in the distance. Janet walks ahead and says, "No, they're friendly." "Probably," she says quietly. Janet greets their leader, works her charismatic magic, and the quantum desert people give them a flying animal. Back at the freedom fighters' home, Jentorra explains that Baron Karza, a leader from another civilization, heard of their technology and sent an army to get it for him. Baron Karza is one of Ant-Man's enemies in the comics, and he comes from the Microverse, which is pretty much the quantum realm. With Kang's technology and his surprising tactical battle expertise, Jentorra's people were able to defeat the army of Baron Karza. However, in the last battle, Kang was injured. Jentorra's story is interrupted when Kang's soldiers attack the freedom fighters. And that is it for Act 1. I just want to say that I did enjoy many aspects of this movie, and that's why I've left a lot of the movie in this reworked version. Part of why I'm doing this is just to see if I could come up with a story that satisfied me as a fan, because lately, with the past few movies coming out, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness being probably the best out of Doctor Strange 3, Thor 4, and Ant-Man 3, but all of them were overall disappointing to me, and I think it's the same case for a lot of us. So I just wanted to see if I could make some changes that would be appealing to me as a fan. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll try to get Act 2 out soon. Thanks for watching, and take care.